In this video, we have got a 115 kill game with a Chauchat LMG from the support class, and as you can see, we're doing it today on Underground Conquest. As always, stick around in this video. In just a moment's time, I'm going to pop up the specializations on the screen and explain my choices and why. I'm going to then go into the pros and cons of the Chauchat, and then specifically, what is happening in this game to be able to get me the 100 kill game and obviously do well for the team. And what is a slow game at the start, you can see from these first two initial clips, it does get very tasty towards the end. So let's have a look at the specializations. So for this setup, we are all on the right with quick aim, ported barrel, barrel bedding, and lastly the recoil buffer. Now I've got to be honest, I think this might be one of the easiest guns to choose your specializations on in Battlefield 5. When we look specifically at the first specialization options, we have quick aim versus a hipfire specialization. Now hipfire on a slow fire rate LMG, which is of course really heavy, and you're not going to want to run around, run and gun with. For every bullet you fire with this, with hipfire, an enemy at close range with an SMG is going to fire 5 to 10 bullets. So you miss 1 or 2 rounds with this gun, and the enemy's going to kill you before you can even fire off the next shot. Quick aim, of course, is therefore going to be, the best option here. It's not super important on a slow fire LMG, which you're going to use at medium to long range. However, it is going to be the best specialization option to go with here. Moving on to the second and third specializations, this is also a very easy one. The left side is going to increase your ability and accuracy while aimed in, as well as give you increased strafing speed while aimed down sight. Whereas the right side is going to give you improved accuracy while stationary, as well as improved accuracy in terms of horizontal recoil. The left-sided specializations, of course, would be perfect for the aggressive medic SMG player, but we've got a heavy, slow LMG, which will also take ages to pull the gun up with a slow fire rate, and so the left side isn't, again, really an option. The right-sided specs, which increase accuracy while stationary, are perfectly suited to the way you want to be using and playing with this gun. Because of the high recoil of this gun, it's almost impossible to use in full auto at any range. It might be quite hard to tell from this gameplay, but pretty much all the time, unless the enemy is standing directly in front of me with my gun barrel pretty much to their head, I'm always tap firing or using semi-automatic mode at any range. But because the effectiveness of this gun is best suited at medium range, of course you can be effective at long range with it once you master the tap fire, but in those close ranges being very vulnerable, needing to use cover at any time or any opportunity you can to engage enemies throughout the course of this entire game, especially on underground, therefore means you're going to be standing stationary behind covers, leaning around objects, and so those two right-sided specializations, which increase your accuracy, again as I say, while stationary, are going to be absolutely vital and benefit this gun the most. For the final specialization choice, you have a faster reload time, which is quicker by 15%, or you have lowered vertical recoil. Now, as is clearly evident throughout the course of this video, the Chauchat, whether with a tactical or full reload, is extremely slow. Even when I'm here with 6 rounds left, you pretty much have to reload after every gunfight, because that 6 rounds left there is very lucky. I'm very lucky with that to be able to get 1, maybe even 2 kills if I can hit headshots. So needing to reload after every gunfight with an extremely slow reload for a low magazine capacity mag, then again you might think wanting to go for the reload specialization is the best. However, as I've said, this gun has a lot of kick in recoil, especially vertically, and this is a gun you want to be good at and use at medium to long ranges. So lowered vertical recoil is going to bring your sight down onto target faster to be able to hit consecutive shots and therefore get kills faster at long range before your target gets behind cover, and obviously you lose the possibility of getting the kill. I would argue that the benefit of having better accuracy over the course of an entire game will mean you can get more kills over the course of a game. It will result in less deaths because you'll be more accurate during gunfights, and of course that will keep you alive and out of the death screen. And of course you're using this gun at medium to long range, so your chances of getting caught out by an SMG at close range providing you use good positioning, you should be able to constantly reload at medium to long range away from danger and, not have a problem with it therefore. So, before I move on and go into the pros and cons of this weapon, I do have to make note of the sight choice which I'm using in this game, which as you can see is the 3x scope. I'm not a massive fan of the 3x scope because the visual recoil is a lot more and it does feel a lot harder to control, as well as on these close range maps which I often like to play. Again, you can get caught out and not be able to pull your gun up or move and strafe and hit targets that pop up on screen at close range. You can see, if you do search on the channel, 2 other 100 kill games on Underground with the Chauchat using the iron sight. The iron sight is one of the cleanest iron sights in the game. It's very clear, and of course it lowers that zoom so that you can be more effective with it in close range. So therefore the iron sight is my preferred and best choice with this gun, which I would recommend using. But the 3x scope, as you can see in this, providing you keep your distance, which is actually playing to the gun's strengths, then you can obviously do well with it. Moving on to the pros and cons of the Chauchat. Now this is probably going to make the gun seem really bad, but it genuinely is just my opinion on the pros and cons. But if we start with the pros, then of course the damage per bullet is very good. So although you do have only 20 rounds, as evidenced from this clip here, you can get a lot of kills per magazine. 2 bullets for headshots, 3 bullets for body shots, and therefore the kill potential, 4 to 5 kills per mag as standard, then of course is really good. If you do look at it as all headshots, 20 rounds, then you can get pretty much 10 kills on full health enemies. Very unlikely, but low rounds, high damage, still get good kill potential. In terms of other pros, of course the iron sight is a very clean iron sight, as I've already mentioned, so that is a very viable way to use and go with this gun. And lastly, it's one of the better guns in the support class at medium to long range. Again, being able to use tap fire and semi-automatic fire mode, it allows you to compete and take out snipers and the like. So again, one of the better guns at long range. In comparison, when we look at the cons of the weapon, a lot of them don't need much explanation, but of course you have got the fire rate, the reload time, there is a lot of recoil, it makes it almost impossible to use in full auto. It is a full auto weapon by default, so it's pretty useless in that manner there. The hip fire, again, although not really important on this weapon, is very bad if you do come into the situation where you need it. And overall mobility of the gun, it feels very clunky, it does feel very slow. If you get into close quarters engagements and you get caught out by surprise by the enemies, you will have a difficult time of staying alive and winning those gunfights. Now yes, you have got the 2 specializations, the second and third option on the left, which increases your mobility and aim down sight speed, but as I've explained already at the start of the video, this isn't the way you want to use and go with this gun. So, in terms of this game, where we're at now, what you're watching on screen, we are at pretty much a very stalemate choke point, which you will often see at either side of the map, where we are now, or if it's on the opposite side of the map, which is obviously by the windows, going up the staircases to go towards C flag, being the German spawn. It's a big challenge to use a weapon like this with a 3x scope at these sorts of choke points, because a lot of people, they get the urge, you want to run through, push through, go on a rampage, get loads of kills, and of course it's going to lead to death after death after death, because in these scenarios here, the middle of the map here, the left side, as well as the tight tunnel on the right, which is basically just an explosive alleyway, it just leads to death after death after death, because there is a whole enemy team standing right in front of me where I am now. The sandbags, as you've already seen in the previous clip, is a big play and very good here. As well as all the smoke, it becomes a real challenge to be able to see enemies, spot enemies, get into any good position and get a lot of kills. So the overall play here, you need to have patience, avoid dying, otherwise you're going to have to go back and spawn at B flag and waste a lot of time constantly running back to the action. It's very hard to spawn on squad mates in underground. So that's kind of the way you want to play it, and basically keep at distance, wait for the smoke to pass and pick off as many kills as you can. Alternatively, you can be the aggressor, although you will probably get a lot of deaths, but you can try and use smoke, push and flank through hoping that enemies won't, spot you and see you in the smoke, or you won't run into them in the smoke, and there's a chance you can get through. You can also potentially try and do this with the scout class using smokes and get through and put a beacon down behind the enemy team, so you can constantly spawn and get a lot of flanks. But you might have to die a lot of times before you can be successful when first doing that. Anyways, that has been the video. Please smash a like for me, and of course there are 2 other 100 kill game videos with the Chauchat on Underground. You can go and watch for more in-depth analysis and different scenarios compared to this one here.